intrigued, and because we know his parents didn't set them, how do you think they went about dating and getting to know each other? Because the Wizarding World is archaic at best, and there's betrothals and there's what do you call it? Like dates where you have a chaperone, I would assume. How do you think these two went about dating and truly getting to know each other?
Did you ever see
that she wanted to change how his child was raised?
Did you ever see My Big Fat Greek Wedding?
Yeah.
Sam's with me.
Those secret dates, though.
Those secret dates, though.
I think
I'm in school. I'm studying. I'm doing some sort of charity event for.
I'm taking a pottery class.
That's the problem. We're talking about the Wizarding World, which is really freaking small, and he is really freaking white-haired.
Yeah. He is very noticeable.
I can see her convincing him by the third date to have dates in the Muggle world.
Ooh.
And that's what gets him at least more tolerant.
Because no one knows who he is.
No one in the Muggle world knows who he is.
No one gives a shit that he is the Malfoy heir or whatever.
Can you imagine going down Piccadilly Circus? No one cares about the blonde-haired Draco guy.
No one cares. I also
Malfoy in the Muggle world. I mean, I can't even imagine that. Even as two of you are saying it, I can't even see it.
Hey, lust makes boys do lots of interesting things.
It had to be her, because even the Malfoy that we see towards the end of the book is starting to be like, I don't know, but not enough to defy his parents. I think she took the lead a lot. I think we saw him as liking, we see Draco as liking having power and being good at bullying, but he's not really a leader. So he's not someone who's gonna like put together, these elaborate dates. I think a lot of times he'd kind of be like, you want to go to the pub again? And she'd be like, what if we went to Muggle Piccadilly Circus?
Let's go to the West End. I'd like to see a musical.
Yeah.
What was that, Mel?
So I guess my next question becomes, how hard do you think he fought against it initially? Because we are talking about the Muggle world. Regardless of everything about this boy, the one thing we can all agree on is he probably did not just overnight wake up and think, let's go to the Muggle world.
No.
But it was perfect timing. It was perfect timing because he already was having huge misgivings about his parents and was very confused in that time period post-war. So all of a sudden you throw in a Muggle symbol, yep, and it's crazy.
How's that English treating you?
I think that
like French.
I think she worked hard to convince him and started with something small and easy, like let's just go to a park outside the Leaky Cauldron. Let's go to I think she slowly worked him out to having a sense of security, and I know it's so stereotypical, but we all do it. Boys, girls, who everyone in between. If you really like someone and you are 100% smitten, you will do all kinds of things you never thought you could possibly do to spend time with that person.
Absolutely. Especially because she'd be smart enough, especially if she was a Ravenclaw, to take a notice of his interests and make sure to point them towards Muggle versions of those interests.
And I get that, except she was a pure blood too. She didn't know the Muggle world either. So that's where my rub is coming in. I think she would have been more open to it. I think she would have done more research on it. Maybe she reached out to her Muggle-born friend and got ideas. I can see all of that. But
I can see her if she had a Muggle-born friend for years. I think she had snuck into the Muggle world before to hang out with her friend.
Yeah.
I think it wasn't new for her, but it was absolutely new for Draco.
Yeah, but you're basing that knowledge off of a fan fiction. There's
Well,
nothing.
we're all basing it off of somebody's headcanon. I'm just throwing that out there.
I'm saying I like the idea of her having a Muggle-born best friend or close friend, whatever. I still think it's. I'm having trouble wrapping my head around the two of them going to the Muggle world. At least in the first year of knowing each other, like he just
It may not have been in the first year.
open-minded enough.
And it may not have been. Who knows? But I'm not close to the idea anymore.
I get it. You're not close to the idea. I get that. I'm going to say in my thinking about the question of how did they date, I just saw an awful lot of parties at friends' houses. You know that first year when you come back from college and everybody is like, let's meet over at Joe's house. Let's meet over at Sue's house. I'm like, he was pretty ostracized from society. So he would have just had like maybe Blaze, Theo, Daphne, Pansy, those people to hang out with. And they would arrange to make sure the other one was going to be there when they were going to these parties. Like, and that's how I see them, quote, sneaking to date. Because I don't think his friends would have not known, but I think his parents would have not known until he was sure enough to be able to say, yes, I'm willing to stand up for this girl.
I think it's gotta come in somewhere though. It's like something there was, and he was doing his own, well, he wasn't doing the work, but he was already slowly sort of heading towards that journey. But although I guess it is 19 years later.
Was he though? I mean, at the end of the war, he had to accept. But up until that moment, we don't truly, like, there's nothing in the books that says he was changing his mind. He's just not. I mean, we know he.
And the author says he never really changes his mind. He just becomes more tolerant. Right. Because of his love of her.
So here's the
That's what I'm saying, because of his love of her. So there has to be something that she brings to the table that is strong enough to stand up to years of Malfoy conditioning.
Bomb chicka wow wow. Sorry.
I mean, fair. Fair. Maybe pussy whip. Fine.
So how do you see their wedding? Now remember, this is maybe 4 years post-war. It is Astoria, who is more open-minded, probably does have Muggle-born friends, probably has quite a few half-blood friends. Let's say she was in Ravenclaw, so it's a whole different circle of people than any of the Slytherins would have hung out with. And she's marrying Draco Malfoy. Go. Tell me about this wedding.
Oh my God. Her mother-in-law would have been all over that freaking wedding.
I was going to say, first of all, Narcissa, regardless of the bride, was going to have the wedding of the century for her only heir to a fortune son. This 100%. Poor girl had no say whatsoever in her wedding. She had nothing. And her mother, probably annoyed and pissed at Narcissa most of the time, but kowtowed to the, quote, greater, richer family.
Even though they were both Sacred 28. The Malfoys are just richer and more influential.
Yeah. What did you say, Mel?
I said Sacred 28 doesn't equal rich, though.
Exactly. True.
That is true.
I pictured the green grasses as upper middle class. Comfortable, happy lives, but not generational wealth.
Yeah, I think there would have been a lot of mom on mom fighting.
I just pictured the craziest wand duel over at the dress shop. Like at the dress.
You know what's funny? Go ahead.
Do you remember in Sleeping Beauty where they're like, blue, no pink, no blue,
Yes,
no pink?
yes, absolutely. First of all, 100% that definitely happened with at least half of the wedding, and that's
Yes.
hysterical. But then at a certain point, they realized that could get dangerous, so they gave them each wedding wands, so that whenever they were discussing or working on the wedding, they used these wands that were completely useless, so that they couldn't put them out. They had to talk it out.
I like it.
Maybe because I have a friend who did this, but it fit this scenario so well. They actually eloped and didn't tell anyone so that they could have the wedding they wanted. And then all of the stress and angst of the wedding, which was still like 4 months away, they could just ignore because they were actually happily married already.
That's kind
And
of brilliant, honestly.
yeah, and when the mothers are fighting, they were just like, well, you two figure it out. And so
Whatever you want, Mama Malfoy.
I think the world saw that they were just malleable, easy to persuade children, but actually it's because they were already married. They were good to go.
Yep.
So let me see. The one thing let me see. What's the other thing I saw? Astoria attended Hogwarts. She was evacuated because she was too young during the war. It's unknown which house, which is why I thought about it and put her in Ravenclaw. And then it says the events of the Second Wizarding World during her young teenage years made Astoria espouse a more tolerant life view, turning her back on her family's blood purity ideals. Although her experience through the war was less than what Draco suffered. And what that made me think about, she is younger than him. She's more tolerant than him. But I don't think she's fully equipped to deal with trauma. And regardless of who he was before, during, and after the war, I am sure his trauma reared its ugly head every once in a while. Because she was so more accepting, do you think she convinced him to see someone, even if they brought someone to the house?
Whatever.
I'm so glad we've reached the therapy session of this. Therapy is necessary. It always works. Now, could she convince him to go? Yes, because again, pussy whip.
Okay.
I think because Draco was young when she got him, he was more malleable, and he was recently traumatized and questioning everything he had known. Yep, she was able to do it. I think Draco post Scorpius was done with that frou feelings nonsense.
I think that would have died when she died. Like his tolerance and malleability and open-mindedness. I can see, after all the trauma he suffered as a child, the death of the woman that he chose and he loved and he bore a son with, I can see that shutting him down again. So yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
I would love for it to do the opposite. I would love for him to like realize that life is short and take up the mantle, but he ghosted his therapist and all of a sudden wasn't going out. And
Yep.
oh, Draco. I was almost about to say like, oh, I feel bad for him, but he's still Draco.
So another question then. When do you think she made her views on blood purity, on how they were going to raise their child? When do you think she made those views clear? Because one thing we know in the world in general is most people don't discuss their child rearing plans when they're dating. They get pregnant and go, oh shit, we never talked about this. So when do you think she made her very apparently clear views on things well understood to him?
I genuinely believe very early on, even like, I don't know if you've ever done this, Have you ever met a